welcome back to my channel. My name is Emily and today we are talking about all things fall reading. Fall reading is the epitome of happiness for me. The atmospheric books, the spooky vibes, the coziness. It starts to get a little colder outside. So in order to properly ring in the new season, I decided to put together the ultimate guide to fall reading. I have some cozy mystery, cozy fantasy, classics, and young adult. We will go through each genre one by one and I will give you some books that I think fit the vibes of fall perfectly. I hope that you get some good recommendations from this and I hope you enjoy it. So go grab yourself a coffee, something warm to drink, get a blanket, get cozy, and let's jump right into the ultimate guide to fall reading. Okay, we are going to start off with books that are more focused on atmospheric vibes rather than heavy plot. The first one we have is The House Witch. This is by Delamac. I have my phone up here, so I have like the descriptions on Goodreads, so if you see me looking down, that's why. This is described as a heartwarming and humorous blend of fantasy, romance, and mystery. This is about our main character, Finley Ashawan, who joins the staff of the King and Queen of Daxaria. No one knows where he comes from or how he came to be where he is, which suits Finn just fine. He's satisfied simply serving as the royal cook. So I feel like if you're someone who likes food, this is going to be good. Keeping nosy passerby out of his kitchen and concocting some truly uncanny meals. But Finn's secret identity doesn't stay hidden for long. After all, it's not every day a house witch and his kitten familiar Kraken take to meddling in imperial affairs. As his powers are gradually discovered by the court, Finn finds himself involved in a slew of intrigues. So this is perfect if you are someone who is into cozy fantasies with cooking and I guess like hijinks. I feel like it's going to be a little goofy, so definitely heavy on the atmosphere and less on plot building. Okay, the next one we have is The Bookshop and the Barbarian by Morgan Stang. So let me read the description. Running from strife in her homeland, Arabella Waters becomes the new owner of the fabled Cozy Quill. After finding squatters on her property, she employs Asteria Hellsdaughter, a giant barbarian warrior woman more accustomed to swinging an axe than opening a book. Together, the odd couple must make a success out of the bookshop and survive a dizzying procession of seasonal festivals. But the local evil noblewoman has other plans in mind. Threatened with being run off the land, Marabella and Asteria must use their wits to outsmart Lady Maleficent and keep their business open. Along the way, the whole town lends a hand, friendships are forged, and mysteries are revealed. So this is a low-stakes comedic and cozy fantasy with a slice of life sapphic romance. Beautiful. It sounds absolutely beautiful. Very excited for that one. The next one we have is Forged by Magic by Jenna Wolfhart. So this is definitely a combination of cozy fantasy and romance. It's described as a feel-good, heartwarming fantasy romance with a helping of spice and only a pinch of danger. So if you're someone who is into like a cozy romance with a little bit of stakes, not like super high stakes, this one might be for you. So our main character is trapped in a tower by the emperor who conquered her homeland. She yearns for an escape, but as one of the few half-orcs left in the world, she knows she'll never be free, much less find her own happily ever after. Kind of sounds like Shrek. She takes an unexpected turn when the emperor offers her a deal. To earn her freedom, she must journey to the mysterious Isles of Fable and track down wielders of outlawed dragon magic. So she accepts this, and when a brutal storm tosses her ship off course, she washes up on the wrong island, right at the feet of Rivlin, a gruff but handsome elven blacksmith who seems more likely to stab her than help her. He offers her shelter until the next ship passes through in 6 weeks' time. They bicker over the flames of his forge, but her heart slowly kindles with something she's never felt before. So it is a complete standalone fantasy romance novel set in the whimsical world of Falling for Fables. It kind of reminds me a little bit of Legends and Lattes, but with a little bit of spice. Going along with the cozy fantasy genre, we're going to bunch in the witchy books because I feel like most of them are cozy fantasies, but like they're subgenres of like witchy. Next one is by an author that I adore. This is The League of Gentlewomen Witches by India Holton. Just when you thought it was safe to go back into the tea house, Miss Charlotte Pettifer belongs to a secret league of women skilled in the subtle arts. That is to say, although it must never be said, witchcraft. The League of Gentlewomen Witches strives to improve the world in small ways. Using magic, they tidy, correct, and manipulate according to their notion of what is proper, entirely unlike those reprobates in the Wisteria Society. If you read the Wisteria Society of Lady Scoundrels, you should definitely pick this one up. When the long-lost amulet of Black Beryl is discovered, it is up to Charlotte, as the future leader of the League, to make sure the powerful talisman does not fall into the wrong hands. Therefore, it is most unfortunate when she crosses paths with Alex O'Reilly, a pirate who is no Mr. Darcy. With all the world scrambling after the amulet, Alex and Charlotte join forces to steal it together. If only they could keep their pickpocketing hands to themselves. So these books that Indy Holton writes are very witty and screwball humor, and it's kind of enemies to lovers, slow burn. They're so much fun if you're into wacky writing. I love her writing, so I'll definitely be reading this fall. The next witchy book is The Witches of New York by Amy McKay. The year is 1880. 200 years after the trials in Salem, Adelaide Thom has left her life in the slideshow to open a tea shop with another young woman who feels it's finally safe enough to describe herself as a witch, a formal medical student and guardian de sorts, keeper of spells, Eleanor St. Clair. Together they cater to Manhattan's high society ladies, specializing in cures, palmistry, and potions, and in guarding the secrets of their clients. All is well until one bright September afternoon when an enchanting young woman named Beatrice Dunn arrives at their door seeking employment. Beatrice soon becomes indispensable as Eleanor's apprentice, but her new life with the witches is marred by strange occurrences. She sees things no one else can see. She hears voices no one else can hear. Objects appear out of thin air as if gifts from the dead. Has she been touched by magic, or is she simply losing her mind? Eleanor wants to tread lightly and respect the magic manifest in the girl, but Adelaide sees a business opportunity. Working with Dr. Quinn Brody, a talented alienist, she submits Beatrice to a series of tests to see if she can truly talk to spirits. Amidst the witches' tug-of-war over what's best for her, Beatrice disappears, leaving them to wonder whether it was by choice or by force. As Adelaide and Eleanor begin the desperate search for Beatrice, they're confronted by accusations and specters from their own pasts. In a time when women were corseted, confined, and committed for merely speaking their minds, were any of them safe? This feels like the perfect book to read on a stormy weekend in October, and that's actually exactly what I might do. The next one we have is A Witch's Guide to Magical Innkeeping. This is by Sangu Mandana. This is an enchanting novel about a witch who has a second chance to get her magical powers and her life back on track. Sarah Swan was once one of the most powerful witches in Britain. Then she resurrected her great-aunt Jasmine from the very recently dead, lost most of her magic, befriended a semi-villainous talking fox, and was exiled from her magical guild. Now, she, slightly reluctantly and a bit grumpily, helps Aunt Jasmine run an inn in Lancashire, where she deals with her quirky guest shenanigans, tries to keep the talking fox in check, and longs for the magical future she lost. When she learns about an old spellbook that could hold the secret to restoring her power, she finds herself turning to Luke Larson, a gorgeous and icy historian who might be the only person who can help her unlock the book's mystery. So this is a story about running an inn, so that's super cozy on that end. And then I believe we have a little bit of a slow burn romance. So I feel like this is a super cute romance to pick up for spooky season. The next one is from one of my favorite authors, V.E. Schwab. This is The Near Witch. The Near Witch is only an old story told to frighten children. If the wind calls at night, you must not listen. The wind is lonely and always looking for company, and there are no strangers in the town of Near. These are the truths that Lexi has heard all her life. But when an actual stranger, a boy who seems to fade like smoke, appears outside her home on the moor at night, she knows that at least one of these sayings is no longer true. The next night, the children of Near start disappearing from their beds, and the mysterious boy falls under suspicion. Still, he insists on helping Lexi search for them. Something tells her that she can trust him. As the hunt for the children intensifies, so does Lexi's need to know about the witch that just might be more than a bedtime story, about the wind that seems to speak through the walls at night, and about the history of this nameless boy. Part fairy tale, part love story, V.E. Schwab's debut novel. This is their debut novel. That's insane. This is a dark and magical witchy story, and I also think it's a short read. It's only 284 pages, so if you're looking for a quick witchy read, this might be the one. Okay, now we are going to move on to young adult books. The first one we have is This Poison Heart by Kaylin Bayron. Brecius has a gift. She can grow plants from tiny seeds to rich blooms with a single touch. When Brecius's aunt dies and wills her a dilapidated estate in rural New York, Bree and her parents decide to leave Brooklyn behind for the summer. Hopefully there, surrounded by plants and flowers, Bree will finally learn to control her gift. But their now home is sinister in ways they could never have imagined. It comes with a specific set of instructions, an old-school apothecary, and a walled garden filled with the deadliest botanicals in the world that can only be entered by those who share Bree's unique family lineage. When strangers begin to arrive on their doorstep asking for tinctures and elixirs, Bree learns she has a surprising talent for creating them. One of the visitors is Marie, a mysterious young woman who Bree befriends. I don't know why that was so difficult to say. Only to find that Marie is keeping dark secrets about the history of the estate and its surrounding community. There is more to Bree's sudden inheritance than she could have imagined, and she is determined to uncover it until a nefarious group comes after her in search of a rare and dangerous immortal elixir. The cover is so cute too. Okay, that's very high on the TBR. The next one we have is The Saturday Night Ghost Club by Craig Davidson, a short, irresistible, and bittersweet coming-of-age story in the vein of Stranger Things and Stand By Me about a group of misfit kids who spent an unforgettable summer investigating local ghost stories and urban legends. Growing up in 1980s Niagara Falls, a seedy but magical, slightly haunted place, Jake Baker spends most of his time with his uncle Calvin, a kind but eccentric enthusiast of occult artifacts and conspiracy theories. The summer Jake turns 12, he befriends a pair of siblings new to town, and so Calvin decides to initiate them all into the Saturday Night Ghost Club. But as the summer goes on, what begins as a seemingly lighthearted project may ultimately uncover more than any of its members had imagined. With the alternating warmth and sadness of the best coming-of-age stories, the Saturday Night Ghost Club examines the haunting mutability of memory and storytelling, as well as the experiences that form the people we become. Okay, next one we have is House of Marian by J.L. Quell has lived her entire life on the run. She and her mother have fled from city to city in order to hide the deadly magic that flows through Quell's veins, until someone discovers her dark secret. To hide from the assassin hunting her and keep her mother out of harm's way, Quell reluctantly inducts into a debutante society of magical social elites called the Order that she never knew existed. If she can pass their 3 rites of membership, mastering their proper form of magic, she'll be able to secretly bury her forbidden magic forever. If caught, she will be killed. But becoming the perfect debutante is a lot harder than Quell imagined, especially when there's more than tutoring happening with Jordan, her brooding mentor and assassin in training. When Quell uncovers the deadly lengths the Order will go to defend its wealth and power, she's forced to choose: embrace the dark magic she's been running from her entire life, or risk losing everything and everyone she's grown to love. I love a story that's like focused on like a debutante or like secret societies. I just think they're so interesting, so that's definitely going to be a good one. The next one we have is Her Radiant Curse by Elizabeth Lim. Chani was not born a monster, but when her own father offers her in sacrifice to the demon witch, she is forever changed. Cursed with the serpent's face, Chani is the exact opposite of her beautiful sister Vanna, the only person in the village who looks at Chani and doesn't see a monster, the only person she loves and trusts. Now 17, Vanna is to be married off in a vulgar contest that will enrich the coffers of the village leaders. Only Chani, who's had to rely on her strength and cunning all these years, can defend her sister against the cruelest of the suitors. But in doing so, she becomes the target of his wrath, launching a grisly battle royale, a quest over land and sea, a romance between sworn enemies, and a choice that will strain Chani's heart to its breaking point. Weaving together elements of The Selection and Ember in the Ashes with classic tales like Beauty and the Beast, Helen of Troy, and Asian folklore, Elizabeth Lim is at the absolute top of her game in this thrilling yet heart-wrenching fantasy. That sounds so good. That sounds so good. The next book we have is The Fall of Whit Rivera by Crystal Maldonado. Frenemies Whit and Jay have been at odds for years, ever since he broke up with her freshman year in like the most embarrassing way imaginable. But when they're forced to organize their high school's fall formal together, everything changes. Has their friction been a big misunderstanding all alone? Blisteringly funny and profoundly well observed, At Wit's End is a snug and cozy autumn rom-com that also touches on weight issues like PCOS, grief, disability, sexuality, and class. If you're looking for a YA romance this fall, pick this one up. The next genre we're going to talk about is going to be a mixture of horror and gothic. So not all of these are super scary, but I will tell you which ones are if you're not interested in that. The first one we have is How to Sell a Haunted House by Grady Hendrix, and this one is going to be a thriller horror novel. When Louise finds out her parents have died, she dreads going home. She doesn't want to leave her daughter with her ex and fly to Charleston. She doesn't want to deal with her family home, stuffed to the rafters with the remnants of her father's academic career and her mother's lifelong obsession with puppets and dolls. That's so creepy. She doesn't want to learn how to live without the two people who knew and loved her best in the world. Most of all, she doesn't want to deal with her brother Mark, who never left their hometown, gets fired from one job after another, and resents her success. Unfortunately, she'll need his help to get their house ready for sale because it'll take more than some new paint on the walls and clearing out a lifetime of memories to get this place on the market. Some houses don't want to be sold and their home has other plans for both of them. So this is kind of like a haunted house story. I don't think it's super scary, so if you're someone who can't do like super scary or gory kind of books, I don't think this is going to be it, but it is still considered a scary book. Okay, the next one we have is one I'm so excited for. This is We Have Always Lived in the Castle by Shirley Jackson. Shirley Jackson's beloved gothic tale of a peculiar girl named Mary Cat and her family's dark secret, taking readers deep into a labyrinth of dark neurosis. We Have Always Lived in the Castle is a deliciously unsettling novel about a perverse, isolated, and possibly murderous family and the estate that ensues when a cousin arrives at their estate. There is also a Netflix adaptation, so if you like the book, you have something else to watch for spooky season. Next horror book we have is 12 Nights at Rotter House by J.W. Ocker. Felix Alcee is a travel writer with a keen eye for the paranormal, and he's carved out a unique, if only slightly lucrative, niche for himself in nonfiction. He writes travelogues of the country's most haunted places after haunting them himself. When he convinces the owner of the infamous Rotterdam mansion to let him stay on the premises for 2 weeks, he believes he's finally found the location that will bring him a bestseller. As with his other gigs, he sets the rules for no leaving the house for any reason, refrain from outside contact, and sleep during the day. When Thomas Ruth, Felix's oldest friend and fellow horror film obsessive, joins him on the project, the two dance around a recent and unspeakably painful rough patch in their friendship, but eventually fall into their old rhythms of dark humor and movie trivia. That's when things start going. Screams from upstairs, figures in the thresholds, and more than what should be in any basement. Felix realizes the book he's writing and his very state of mind is tilting from nonfiction into all-out horror. And the shocking climax answers a question that's been staring these men in the face all in Rotter House. Who's haunting who? Okay, we are on to Belladonna by Adeline Grace. This is kind of taking over social medias like BookTok and Bookstagram, so I feel like a lot of people have heard of this, but if you have not, here is the description. Orphaned as a baby, 19-year-old Signa has been raised by a string of guardians, each one more interested in her wealth than her well-being, and each has met an untimely end. Her remaining relatives are the elusive Hawthorns, an eccentric family living at Thorngrove, an estate both glittering and gloomy. Its patriarch mourns his late wife through wild parties, while his son grapples for control of the family's waning reputation, and his daughter suffers from a mysterious illness. But when their mother's restless spirit appears, claiming she was poisoned, Signa realizes that the family she depends on could be in grave danger and enlists the help of a surely stable boy to hunt down the killer. However, Signa's best chance of uncovering the murderer is an alliance with Death himself, a fascinating, dangerous shadow who has never been far from her side. Though he's made her life a living hell, Death shows Signa that their growing connection may be more powerful and more irresistible than she ever dared imagine. So this is kind of like a dark horror gothic story mixed with a little bit of dark romance. So if that is something you're interested in, Belladonna is definitely the one for you. Okay, now we are going to move on to cozy mysteries / just mysteries in general. The next one we have is The 7 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle. The cover says she's been murdered hundreds of times, and each day Aiden Bishop is too late to save her. The only way to break this cycle is to identify Evelyn's killer. But every time the day begins again, Aiden wakes in the body of a different guest, and someone is desperate to stop him ever escaping Blackheath. So this is one of those like Groundhog's Day themes where it's the same day lived over and over again. The next one we have is The Sanatorium by Sarah Pierce. Half hidden by forest and overshadowed by threatening peaks, Le Summit has always been a sinister place. Long plagued by troubling rumors, the former abandoned sanatorium has since been renovated into a 5-star minimalist hotel. An imposing, isolated getaway spot in the Swiss Alps is the last place Ellen Warner wants to be. But Ellen's taken time off from her job as a detective, so when her estranged brother Isaac and his fiancée Laurie invite her to celebrate their engagement at the hotel, Ellen really has no reason not to accept. Arriving in the midst of a threatening storm, Ellen immediately feels on edge. There's something about the hotel that makes her nervous, and when they wake the following morning to discover Laurie is missing, Ellen must trust her instincts if they hope to find her. With the storm closing off all access to the hotel, the longer Laurie stays missing, the more the remaining guests start to panic. Okay, camera died. We have a little bit of an angle change, but we are back. We are going to jump into some more cozy mysteries. The first one we have is Accidental Magic by Iris Beaglehole. That is quite the last name. This is part of the Myrtlewood Mystery series. Welcome to Myrtlewood, a quirky town steeped in magic, tea, and mystery. Life's a struggle for Rosemary Thorne and her teen daughter, Athena, but their regular troubles are turned upside down after Granny Thorne's mysterious death. Despite her cousin's sinister maneuverings, Rosemary returns to Myrtlewood and the sprawling, dilapidated Thorne Manor. But there's more to the old house than meets the eye, as Rosemary and Athena soon find out, and a whirlwind of magic, adventure, mystical creatures, and endless cups of tea. Life in Myrtlewood would be bliss if Rosemary could only clear her name in a certain murder investigation, solve the mystery, and stay out of mortal peril, for at least a little while. A small town with endless secrets, strange activities, and a house with a mind of its own. If you love mystery, witches, magic, and a big dose of humor, you are going to love Myrtlewood Mysteries Book 1. The next one we have is the Shady Hollow series. These are a collection of murder mysteries by Juno Black. The first book in the Shady Hollow series, in which we are introduced to the village of Shady Hollow, a place where woodland creatures live together in harmony, until a curmudgeonly toad turns up dead and the local reporter has to solve the case. Reporter Vera Vixen is a relative newcomer to Shady Hollow. The fox has a nose for news, so when she catches wind that the death might be a murder, she resolves to get to the bottom of the case, no matter where it leads. As she stirs up still waters, the fox exposes more than one mystery and discovers that additional lives are in jeopardy. Vera finds more to this town than she ever suspected. It seems someone in the Hollow will do anything to keep her from solving the murder, and soon it will take all of Vera's cunning and quickness to crack the case. I love the idea that this is like a town of woodland creatures solving murders. Love it. Okay, the next one we have is Caught Dead-Handed by Carol J. Perry. She's not a psychic, she just plays one on TV. Most folks associate the city of Salem, Massachusetts with witches, but for Lee Barrett, it's home. This October, she's returned to her hometown, where her beloved Aunt Ibby still lives, to interview for a job as a reporter at WICH-TV, but the only opening is for a call-in psychic to host the late-night horror movies. It seems the previous host, Ariel Constellation, never saw her own murder coming. Lee reluctantly takes the job, but when she starts seeing real events in the obsidian ball she uses as a prop, she wonders if she might really have psychic abilities. To make things even spookier, it's starting to look like Ariel may have been an actual practicing witch, especially when Orion, the cat Lee and Aunt Ibby inherited from her, exhibits some strange powers of her own. With Halloween fast approaching, Lee must focus on unmasking a killer, or her career as a psychic may be very short-lived. I love the idea that she is working as an on-TV psychic. That is adorable. I love that. And the last one we have for today is In the Company of Witches by Arlie Wallace. I actually started this one and I'm not quite finished, but what sold me is that it's described as a mixture of like Gilmore Girls and practical magic, and I was absolutely sold from that point on. This is about a group of 3 witches that run a bed and breakfast together with a cat. That's all I needed to know to want to read the book. But one of their guests at the B&B dies, and they are trying to figure out how she died. And that's pretty much the premise of the story. It's super cozy. There's like a lot of tea and coffee and townspeople and events. So if you're into books like that, that one's perfect. Okay, so that is the end of today's video. I just wanted to touch on like the cozy books. I have so many more, and I cut a lot of them out because I didn't want to make this super long. So if you want a part 2, please let me know. I would love to make one. I think that would be so much fun. I could also do some like dark fantasy and dark horror because I have a lot of recommendations for those, so that might be the next video, so stay tuned for that. If you liked this, please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. It means the world to me. Feel free to message me, let me know what you're reading, and we can talk, chat about books, because I love doing that. So yeah, thank you guys for watching, and I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day.